Alright, hello everyone, and welcome into the Lore Council. This is Cade, and today I will be pondering the question of, does canon matter? And to preface this a little bit, we're going to be breaking it down into two parts. We have, does the canonicity, I will move forward saying, it sounds a little bit better, of a story matter? And two, does canon in referring to continuity matter? And so let's jump right into it. Does the canonicity of a story matter? And to me, the answer is very simple. No. A good story is a good story, regardless of if it's canon in that universe or not. For example, the story Spider-Man Life Story is a really, really awesome Spider-Man story. But it's not canon to Marvel 616. It's an alternate universe. It's a different reality. But that doesn't change the fact that the characterization of Peter Parker and Spider-Man in it is awesome. The art is awesome. Everything about it is really, really good. And then, on the topic of Marvel, you could get into things like, when it was still going, the Ultimate Universe, which had good stuff. It also had bad stuff. But you take, for example, Ultimate Spider-Man. And Spider-Man very easily, for me, is easy to pick as a example because I love Spider-Man. I've been reading Spider-Man comics basically since I was a kid, full-time reading the bi-weekly releases for about 3 years now. And I would just have to say that you have stuff like the Ultimate Universe and the 616 Universe. Neither of these two are canon to each other. They're two separate canons, two separate continuities. But that doesn't mean that since the Ultimate Universe isn't canon to the 616 universe, that the Ultimate Universe Spider-Man is any less valid, any less good as a standalone story. And I think that's one of the biggest hallmarks of a good story, is that it can stand on its own. If it's a series, it doesn't need another universe. It doesn't need any other stuff like that to help prop it up. Which brings me to Star Wars. In my opinion, the kind of current ongoing universe versus universe debate, or rather the Legends versus canon debate. So does the expanded universe being not canon to the current Lucasfilm continuity, does that matter? And of course, if you're a viewer of this channel at all, watching any of our Star Wars content, you would know I don't think it does. The expanded universe, Legends, whatever you want to call it, I basically use the two interchangeably. It doesn't matter if it's canon to what's currently being released. It doesn't matter if it's canon to the sequels, canon to the Mandalorians, canon to any of the stuff being released since 2014. Because on its own, it still stands as a good universe, as a good story. And yeah, in any long-running thing, there are going to be good and bad stories. I've never been, nor will I ever want to be, the kind of person who says that the expanded universe was perfect and should be held up and all the stories in it were good, because that would be simply false. But what I can tell you for 100% fact is the Legends continuity, being a old canon, currently not used canon, does not matter because the stories in it are still good. They're still well written and still well told stories. And this doesn't just apply to Star Wars. This applies to Marvel Comics and DC Comics as well, where both of these have alternate universe. I believe DC calls them Elseworld stories. Marvel has What Ifs. And these are stories which are not canon to the main continuity, but they're still good. There are still going to be fun stories. They're still going to be enjoyable to read. And this overarching point that I'm making here is that canonness in regards to a singular story, series, etc., does not matter. Now we can move forward onto the second part. Does canon in referring to continuity matter? Yes, this is something that matters. If you have a series, if you have a long-running series, universe, whatever, then canon in regards to continuity, and I'll be using the word continuity going forward, does matter. And to go along with this, I have an example, ironically enough, of Batman. If in the current continuity, Batman just started using a pistol and shot the Joker, he shot the Riddler, he shot the Penguin, he shot Mr. Freeze, and killed them all dead, how would that affect the continuity moving forward if there was no explanation for this? If all of a sudden Batman is a gun-toting killer, it wouldn't make sense because there's currently a established continuity in where Batman does not use guns. He does not kill. So it would not make sense. Now, this would be a big continuity error, and it would probably have to end up being retconned, which is a totally valid way to help long-running things stay tidy, stay tied together. And it's something that's been done in especially comic books forever. And just because there is a retcon does not mean it's a bad thing. Which is going to bring me back to Star Wars, of course. In the 1990s, after the first couple expanded universe novels had come out, they realized they had to work together to hold this story and hold this universe together. And yes, this meant having a continuity. And yes, every once in a while, there would be continuity errors that would be retconned and fixed. Stuff like the rebels stealing the Death Star plans. Originally, it was said one way, and then another way. And then in Dark Forces, they said it was this way, that Kyle Katarn stole it. Well, they ended up retconning all these things together into a big rebel operation to steal the Death Star plans. And it worked. It works because then you can still have all these stories fitting in one continuity, one canon, and you can enjoy them all validly as a part of the universe. And yes, there were bigger retcons that would end up coming about because of the Clone Wars and Dave Filoni not caring, but that's a video for another time and I won't get into it. But there were still efforts, even then in 2008 onwards, with the Clone Wars going on, to make sure that everything was fitting together. And there were retcons in the past for people like Boba Fett and what the Clone Wars actually were, and the Rusan Reformation, which is more George Lucas's fault than anything. So it isn't just the writers of the stories having to do these as well, but they're also having to deal with someone like George Lucas, who can't even remember how many generations the Jedi existed and served the Republic. So to wrap this all up and re-answer the two questions here at the end, in case you haven't completely gotten my answers from this, yes, canon matters in the form of continuity, in the form of keeping a universe cohesive and tied together. But, on the other hand, the status of canon, or a work's canonness, does not matter. It does not affect the enjoyment, the readability, the watchability, the playability of whatever it is, be it a video game, novel, comic book, audiobook, movie, etc. These don't matter. A quality story is a quality story, regardless of its status of canon in that universe. So, with that, this concludes this short little video. I hope you enjoyed it and this small little exploration into the topic of canon versus not canon, and if it really matters at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, if you have your own thoughts about canon, about if it matters or not, if it matters to your personal enjoyment of something or not, feel free to leave those in the comments below. It's always interesting to see what other people have to think of this, because there is such a wide array of opinions and thoughts that everyone is going to have. And of course, if you've enjoyed this video, drop a like on it. If you've been enjoying the content that we've been putting out on the Lore Council, feel free to subscribe to the channel, or if you're new, check out some of our other content and drop a subscribe as well. We're slowly growing our channel. We're up to 70 subscribers. We're on the road to 100, and from there, world domination. So with that, this is Cade from the Lore Council, signing out.